The news where they got this morning, besides I talk to you now. The principalities and powers of the Labour Party, PDP, and the NNPP, that is Kwankwaso, Atiku, and Peter Obi, they are working. They are having a meeting that will help them get a measure. That is what the rumor, according to this day newspaper, is telling us. Now, Atiku and Kwankwaso first get their first meeting. When they get the meeting, they come think and say, oh boy, this thing not be progressive. We not call Peter Obi, oh, now they go call Peter Obi come. So Peter Obi joined them for the second meeting. What did the Peter Obi man, we don't know. But from the news where they reach us now is that they are saying, okay, everybody first sit down, they made a wash waiting the tribunal won't talk. They believe the tribunal will give a good decision. But if the tribunal not give a good decision, or if the tribunal even declare a rerun, they want to come together and join forces together and fight APC for the rerun. Because individually, if he had, then in case the team even favor APC, they will come together and work for the 2027 election to join forces together and beat APC to it the way APC grouped together and beat PDP in the last administration. Let me read you the news. According to this day newspaper, Atiku, Kwankwaso, Obi discussing measure may set up a formidable party, gearing up for possibilities as the country continues its transition process. The trio of Atiku Abubakar, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and Peter Obi have begun to discuss the possibility of a measure with the ultimate goal of setting up a formidable party that can more effectively challenge the ruling APC this day has learned. The meeting of these three political leaders, which had been going on for a while, it was gathered, started with the one between Atiku, the presidential candidate of PDP, and Kwankwaso, who was the presidential candidate of New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, at the last presidential election. After the first leg of the meetings was adjudged successfully, another one between Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and the face of the obedient movement, and other critical elements in the PDP started to take shape after the other two stakeholders had agreed to bring him in. The discussions, which were said to still be at the preliminary stage, had been hinged on two pillars. The first, according to insiders, the three leaders have decided to wait and watch the outcome of the election petitions in court, which will determine the second leg of the decision should the court verdicts go south. For instance, sources privy to some of the discussions hinted that the leaders were hopeful that the Presidential Election Tribunal would be just and fair enough to establish that the election that brought President Bola Tinubu to office could not stand any decent electoral test, and as such do the needful. By this, the leaders were said to be hopeful that the tribunal would call for a re-election or rerun, which would see them come together in a measure for the election and challenge Tinubu and APC in the second opportunity. However, if the tribunal decided otherwise, the leaders were said to be considering setting up a formidable party ahead of the 2027 general election, during which they plan to take over the reins of power from the ruling APC. A source said the meeting started with Kwankwaso and Atiku, and they have agreed to bring Peter Obi in to set up a formidable opposition after the court cases. Although they have not got to the point of discussing who would lead the opposition, they are leaving it out for now till after the court cases. After the court cases, they will plan and come together for a re-election or stand together ahead to fight the 2027 election battle. They are considering a formidable party comprising PDP, Labour, and NNPP. Now, the Peter Obi I know, or let me not use the word I know, the Peter Obi I have seen and I have studied since before the election till now, will not settle for anything other than the president. So even if they want a measure, I will say one of them won't be vice president, and I know Atiku Abubakar is not ready to be vice president. That's one. Secondly, if there was ever going to be a measure between Kwankwaso and Peter Obi, should have happened since. Now they are daybreak. They tried to run him, but Kwankwaso said he does not want to be a vice president. And Peter Obi himself does not want to be a vice president. The truth was, if Peter Obi had run behind Kwankwaso as a vice president, the crowd will vote Peter Obi for non-vote, and we voted Peter Obi because it was Peter Obi. The best option was for Kwankwaso to run behind Peter Obi, but the guy won't be president by all means. Thirdly, I don't like this measure. There is nothing good Atiku has to offer this country. I don't know about Kwankwaso, so I've not studied him enough. But you see that Atiku, there's nothing good he has to offer this country. Because of the beautiful nature of Peter Obi and the way I've seen that he wants to do his things stainless. You know, sweet man will carry some dirty from other party culture. If not, somebody just did the way we did. You understand? We don't want to move from one problem to another problem. We totally believe in the mandate of Peter Obi and we are standing behind it. Carrying some of these dustbin, anywhere you carry dirty water, pour for white. The white must always stain. So I would have loved that we continue fighting for our mandate of Peter Obi like this. If you know what will come again for the next election. But to stand with some of these people is not what I really think is wise enough. Although I'm not a politician, so there are some things I will not understand. Then I know Peter Obi to be also a very wise man. If he takes his decisions, he will consider what Nigerians want in his movement before he takes his decision. So we should not jump into a conclusion yet. This time meeting where the man just go, we never really know what they discuss there. Now inside source, I tell this day, said I'm waiting to talk with this, but we cannot really tell you what is in Peter Obi's mind yet. So now until Peter Obi making the next move, now we'll say, okay, we agree with you or not. But for this measure, I think it is too late. They should have done it since if there was ever going to be a measure. Now, I remember when PDP seized power for this country. Then we did not have APC. We had ACN. We had what's with this Buhari party that I said was it? I don't forget the name. Then we have a lot of parties, and then they all came together and decided to seize power. What they did was they shared the power. They say power will first of all go to Buhari's faction before it can come to ACN faction. They share up, and look at where it has brought us. I think it has taken us from pan to fire. I'm not saying if Peter Obi merged with those people, it should be the same thing. But I'm just saying that the first idea we don't get about this, they give me PTSD. I don't want a measure of politicians that we gather and shut Nigeria out and share money for themselves again. But I trust Peter Obi to be a very smart man and take the best decisions.